Hi, welcome back to Anyone Can Paint. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. We just kind of finished getting our highlights into this opened area. We can always go back at the end and brighten that up if we need to or dull it down. You can always go back and adjust things, and we may have to brighten it up a little bit. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working on the building that we got blocked in last week and also that larger one on the other side. And it's really going to go the same process of what we did, putting in the shingles, and then we'll highlight the front, then shadow the side. Over here it's going to be a little bit simpler because really this whole side of this building is in shadows. So obviously we're going to have to put in the shingles. We'll kind of tone them down a little bit. Then the side of this building is going to be all in shadow. So it'll be a little bit darker. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got the, going to start with the medium flat bristle brush. And we're going to start with the roof on this one. And remember that this is catching some sunlight just like this side of the big one did. So this is going to be a little bit brighter. Now the reason that this roof is not bright is because it's on the side the sun's facing this way, but because of the sun going this way, it's going to hit that directly. So this is going to be a little bit brighter than we made those. So again, we're just going to make a combination of some colors. You want to grab some white, maybe a little bit of brown. You can grab some blue and some brown. And we're just going to kind of go back and forth and float back and forth between some of these colors. And again, just like we did here where we started like that, and then you have to pull down following the roof line, this is the same way. You have to pull down this way. And again, don't make these perfect because we're going to rough these up a little bit. And I'm just going down and just changing out some colors here and there. And again, you can make as many or as few rows as you'd like. Again, we're going to go in and we'll distress those up. Put some holes, cracks, crevices, and all those kind of things in there. We're going to stay with the same brush. Now we're going to start putting in the highlights to the front of this. Remember, these are going to be basically vertical strokes. And again, we want to kind of change the color up a little bit once in a while now and then. Don't worry about the bottom edge because there's going to be weeds and grasses come up on the bottom. So don't worry about getting all your angles perfectly correct. And over here, I'm just going to turn my brush vertically so I can get a thinner stroke there. I'm just going to grab a little bit more brown just to kind of change this up a little bit. But I'm not hitting this canvas very hard when I'm doing this. I'm just kind of skimming it so you can still see some of the underpainting through there. But you want this to kind of be streaky. So it kind of gives you that image of maybe some wood grain and splits in boards and things like that, even though we're going to go back and make that a little bit more pronounced. Now we're going to add some blue to this color because now we're going to do the same thing on the shadow side. So this has got to be a little bit more bluer than what we're using. And we're going to come up here and again, remember to put your brush in the position of your roof line. So right here, it's got to come like, I'm going to put a little bit more blue in this. There we go. Then you turn your brush this way. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this. That's better. All right, when we clean out that brush, and you can see in this roof that we just got done doing, we talked about this a little bit last week when we were doing that larger one where we were putting in all the details and the holes and the cracks and things. If you do this somewhat fast, you end up with those anyways because you're not spending a great deal of time making them all perfect. So if you get in a habit of doing things that you want to look unorganized and distressed, a little bit quicker and don't focus on trying to get everything nice and even and across and the same size, then you'll get these kind of automatically. And then we can just kind of go in and just kind of enhance what that is. And maybe sometimes you just like it the way it is and you're all done with it before you even got started. All right, we're going to stick with this brush and we're going to get into some dark, and we're going to put a door in here. Then we can also work on maybe putting some separations of boards and some splits and cracks and things. This is going to be, again, mostly blue, a little bit of brown. And this, again, makes that dark color. Now, for you who haven't joined us before, and you may be asking, well, why don't you just get black out of a tube? I've explained this a couple times. The reason I don't use black out of a tube is because the manufacturer of that particular paint determines what the recipe or what colors are used to get black. There are many, many color combinations you can use to get a blackish kind of a color. Unfortunately, if you get black out of a tube, you're not going to be sure what colors that manufacturer used to get that particular black. So let's say that there were some burgundies and some purples and some dark brown in their color. Well, if you don't have those colors in your painting, then there's really not like a color harmony, and that black will just stand out, and it doesn't go with anything because it doesn't have the colors in it that you've used on your painting. So what I like to do is I like to make mine out of blue and brown because those colors are typically in a lot of paintings. So there's a little bit more harmony, and it tends to go with the other colors that are in your painting. So that's why I don't buy black out of the tube. So with that dark color, it's really black. We're going to come up. We're going to put like a little door in here, a little that used to be a door, just a door opening. Now this paint's still a little wet, so you can see that it's kind of changing that dark up, but that's not a horrible thing. If you leave like that, sometimes it kind of gives the impression that you can see maybe stuff that's on the inside in there that it's not pronounced, but there's some things back in there. Then you can turn your brush vertically, and you can go through just really lightly, and you can use that to separate some boards or put in some cracks and holes and whatever you like to do. Just to kind of make it look a little experienced. I'm just grabbing some more paint, again, getting it to a chiseled edge. We're going to come on the shadow side, same thing. Just kind of lightly hit it, unless you want a big old hole. Let's say you just want a big crack there. But just kind of work these basically vertical. And you can just skim it sometimes, and again, you'll get wood-grained look, smaller cracks, maybe board separations. And I'm going to make this corner a little bit more pronounced here. There, just kind of rough it up a bit. Now I'm going to clean that brush out, only to get a smaller brush. We're going to use the same color, and then we're going to go into the roof and terrorize that roof a little bit, make it look a little bit more rugged. So I'm going to the small flat bristle brush, using the exact same color, that black that we've just made, that blue and brown. Now you come up here, and again, you can just bring out some more holes and cracks if you want. Remember to kind of follow your roof line. I'm just going to grab some more paint and make a little bit more here. I'll be right back up. Okay. Let's say we take this one out there. Then you can just lightly skim over some of these if you want to, and you'll kind of get a little texture to them. You can take little corners out. Just rough it up. Just going to reshape the brush, get a little bit more paint. You can separate the shingles if you like to a little bit. All right, let's clean that out. Now, just like we did last week with those two buildings, we're going to put a couple little support slats that are in there. Just because the shingles are missing, again, that's part of the frame to the roof. So that's probably still intact to a point. So you're going to see those little cross pieces. I'm going to grab a little bit of white, and I'm going to take some of that black color that we used and kind of gray it down. Chiseled edge again, same small flat bristle brush, and you just want to kind of suggest some of these. Just wherever you like them to go. Of course, it's a smaller roof, you probably don't need a ton of them. All right, we'll go ahead and clean that one out. Again, don't be concerned with the bottom edges of your buildings. I mean, certainly this is not proportionally correct, but our grasses and weeds that we're going to put in are going to go over the bottom of that. So there's really not a need to go through and try to make that really perfect and that nice angled, because you're never going to see it anyway. So just don't even worry about that part. Let's go back to our medium flat bristle brush, and we're going to work on the shingles for this larger building that's on the right-hand side. Now this one, again, remember, is going to be basically in shadows because we're seeing the back side of this, and the light is going to actually kind of come in between these two buildings here and kind of capture some of this area here. So this is going to stay in shadow. So we're not going to be anywhere as bright as we were in those shingles. So this is going to really be a lot more browns and grays and blues. So we're going to, again, mix up just a little batch of that. And as long as this is a little bit lighter than what you've got, then you're going to be okay, because you still want to see these. But now you want to follow your roof line according to that angle there. So these are all going to work their way like this. Again, you can just kind of put these wherever you'd like these to go for now. Just kind of switch up colors. Now if they get too bright, we're always going to go back through and reestablish the colors and tone them down a little bit. It's not a big thing. I'm not sure how easy you can see those. Maybe I'll brighten them up a little bit. You know, if it's easier for you to go down and make your rows of shingles, so let's say that I end up with 5. If it's easier for you to do that and then go based on those, I mean, whatever works for you. A little blue in that. Every time you see me leave, I'm just going down and grabbing some paint from another pile. And if you come down to the palette, you can see I've just got some dark, I got some blue, some brown, some gray, some just a hodgepodge of everything. And when I come down, I just go a little bit of this, and I go back to the canvas, maybe make a couple strokes. Then I come down and maybe grab a little off this pile of color, make a couple strokes. Come down and maybe I blend some of this. And all this time, all these colors are mixing on your brush. And you get some interesting combinations sometimes. Sometimes the combination is not real interesting. And you may have to clean your brush out to start all over. But just kind of let this all happen. All right. Well, we've got this brush and we've got these colors. We're going to do the side of this building. Now, again, remember, shadow. So I've just got basically this color right here, which is a yucky bluish gray brown kind of a color. And again, you want to follow your strokes, and these boards are going to go basically vertically. And that's kind of dark, so I'm going to lighten it up a little bit here and there. I'm just using the width of the brush to make these strokes. However, you can go back and do it the opposite way too if you like. Kind of turn the brush on its side. Again, I'm just grabbing some paint as I go down. And it's okay to have some light in there once in a while. Just don't make it real bright. Just make a nice little combination. You can go back and put a little bit more brown in it once in a while. The nice thing is when you're painting these kind of buildings where they're really old and they're very weathered, is that the interesting thing, and I guess it's lucky for us, that when we're painting these kind of things, is that wood ages and changes the color of that. And a lot of factors are involved in that. Obviously, it depends on what type of wood it is. Depends on how long it's been out into the elements. I guess you have to factor in what kind of elements it's been in. Like in Michigan, you get a lot of 4 strong seasons. So it sees almost everything. Where in other parts of the country, maybe it's somewhat a little bit milder. In some places, it's worse. We're going to go into some blue and brown. Now we're going to get dark again. Again, it's mostly blue, a little bit of brown. Now we're going to go through and we're going to put some cracks and crevices and holes, and we can put some individual boards in here if you like. I may have to reload this a couple times because this paint obviously is still wet because I just did that. So it's starting to mix with this light color, so you start to lose that dark. Just kind of really light touches and you kind of get those splits. You can hit a little bit heavier and get holes. Then you can lightly just skim over this and you can get maybe some little indications of some wood grain. And again, don't do a lot to this because this is still in dark. Now, if you have some of your shingles, because you have this dark color, if you have some of your shingles that are a little bit too bright, you can go back and tone this down a little bit by just lightly going over it. And it'll still kind of retain its brown or whatever, but it just kind of knocks it down a little bit. There. Now we'll clean that brush out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color on those because it kind of mixes in with that quite a bit. So I'm going to try and make a bluish gray color here. Maybe we can set that apart a little bit better. I'm just going to incorporate this color elsewhere. And I'm going to add a little brown to that, just so these aren't all the same. That just brings that out against that a little bit better. Then we'll clean that brush again. All right, next thing we're going to do, let's let that dry a little bit, then we can go in with our dark so we can kind of disturb that roof up a little bit, and maybe we can enhance some of this a little bit when that dries. We're going to go in and put some of the grasses and weeds in. And this is going to be different than we've ever done in the past. And this is going to take a little bit more paint that you apply to the canvas. So you're going to see me putting on the paint a little bit thicker. But the cool thing, I mean, we've done weeds a number of different ways, and we really have never done it this way. How this is going to work is that you're going to just get some paint and you're just going to blob it on there while it's wet. And then kind of over here too. Then you're going to get some other color. Maybe we'll start with some yellowish color. And we'll put that up there because that's where the sun's going to really hit that. Then we'll come in with some greens. We'll put that in there. And then we're going to work a couple colors or a couple rows of colors at a time. At that point, you want to make sure you get some paper towel. You're going to wipe that paint out. And then we're going to go in, and while that paint is thick and wet, you're going to go in like this and just going to grab it and lift it up. And we're going to start in the back where the yellow is a little bit brighter. And then as you work your way into the green, the greens will start to mix with the yellows. But what it leaves is a really nice texture because you're going to see all these bristle marks within that paint. And it's a really cool effect. So we'll start right up here against our brown and our dirt, and we'll bring it right up in here. And then again, we're going to add a second color, and it's a thing of just adding colors as you're going. Now remember that this is going to stay bright for a little bit, and this will be bright for a little bit. Then we need to get into some shadows. Our light's coming in like this. So we're going to change up the colors as we get going, but it's a really interesting process. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with some bright color. And again, I got it on, you can see I got it on pretty thick. So come up to the canvas and you just want to blotch that on. I'm going to go down and grab some more, and I'm going to get some over here. Now you want to go up over this dirt so it looks like that dirt is back. Again, you can see it's kind of thick, but you need it to be that way. And now I'm going to grab some green, and I just grabbed it right on my brush, and I'm going to bring that into there. Same over here. Now what you want to do is get a paper towel, and you want to wipe this paint out of your brush. And then you're going to hold your brush like the Statue of Liberty holds a torch. Now you come in and you just grab and you pull this up. And I'm just hitting and then scooting it up a bit. But this paint needs to be fairly thick to do this. And of course the dark color is going to eat up the light color, but you can see how you get all these little textures. They can get in kind of close. You can still see the brush marks and the bristle marks. It's a really cool way of getting some really thick looking paint, or weeds, I'm sorry. Wipe your brush off again. You're going to start on this side and kind of grab some of that yellow and pull that up, and you want to pull that up over the edge of your building. And then you start working down, and you start bringing some of that green into it. Then you're going to wipe your brush out. We're going to maybe grab some more yellow. Again, see it's on pretty thick. Maybe we'll put some right on top of that green. I'm just going to grab more yellow, come on this side. But you can see I'm putting it on pretty good. All right, now you want to wipe all that excess out of your brush. And we're going to come back, same thing. Now we're just going to be pulling this color up into that green a little bit. This is where we go right over the edges of our building back here. Again, am I just putting in, or sticking this in, lifting up, hitting it, lift. Maybe you can hear that. I'm hitting it kind of like a little drum. Okay, now we need to start thinking about getting in some shadows here. So now, I'm not going to clean out the brush. I'm going to get into some blue and green. Put this on. And I'm going to grab blue and green again. Put this on over here. This is where that shadow is going to start to form here. Again, you want to wipe that paint out. Now we go in, you want to start lifting this up against that lighter color. And we go right up against the building over there. And this is where we talked earlier about you can reshape your path. This is just by bringing this down, and it grows over the edge there. And over here, you want to just go in and lift. And you just want to try to bring this dark color into that lighter color so you can see that contrast. And again, remember how that just kind of tricks the eye to think that's just a lot of thickness there, and that really will help with your distance and depth within this. And these grasses and weeds are going to be basically pretty dark throughout the rest of this. Now you can add a little bit of yellow once in a while if you'd like to, because it's still going to be eaten up by this dark, but it kind of will change it up and just give it a little different value of dark. So I'm going to wipe some of that out. I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow, put that in there. And again, this is not going to stay very bright, obviously, but it just kind of changes it up a bit. Again, wipe some of that out. Go right back in. And we'll darken this up. In fact, maybe I'll just grab something in here. With that. See, it's still kind of dark, but it just adds another color. And we're not going to be able to finish this up, but we will do this very first thing when we meet next week. And I hope you try this. I hope you have a good time with this, but this is something you can really play with quite a bit and going back and forth. And it stays wet for a while because it's so thick. So clean out your brush so you're done with your painting session. And thank you so much for watching. Next week, I think we're going to be able to finish this baby up.